Life throws curveballs at us when we least expect them, whether it's a medical emergency, an urgent home repair, or a sudden job loss. And when these unexpected expenses hit, wouldn't it be great to have a financial safety net in place? That's exactly what an emergency fund is for. In this video, I'm going to show you how to build an emergency fund step by step, no matter where you're starting from. Why do you need an emergency fund? Let's start with why you even need an emergency fund. Imagine this. You lose your job tomorrow, and the bills keep piling up. Without savings, what happens? Most people end up relying on credit cards or loans, leading to debt. But if you had an emergency fund, you could cover those expenses without panicking. Having an emergency fund means you don't have to rely on debt when life gets tough. It provides peace of mind and financial stability. That's why it's essential for everyone, no matter how much you earn. Let me give you an example. Sarah was working a stable job, but one day her company laid off employees unexpectedly. Without any emergency savings, she had to max out her credit card to cover rent and groceries. The debt piled up, and she struggled for months to pay it off. An emergency fund would have saved her from that financial stress. How much should you save? So, how much should you actually save? The common rule of thumb is to have 3 to 6 months' worth of living expenses saved. But don't let that scare you off if it sounds like a lot. Start small. Just saving $500 or $1,000 can protect you from many small emergencies. To figure out how much to save, calculate your monthly essential expenses, things like rent, groceries, utilities, and transportation. Multiply that by 3 or 6, and that's your goal. For example, if your monthly expenses are $2,000, you should aim to save between $6,000 and $12,000. Now, let me break that down for you. If you save $100 a month, in a year, you'll have $1,200. It might seem slow, but small, consistent savings can build up faster than you think. Step 1. Set a savings goal. The first step in building your emergency fund is to set a savings goal. If the full 3 to 6 months seems overwhelming, start with a smaller target, like $1,000 or even $500. The key here is to have a number to work towards. Think about this like climbing a mountain. You don't reach the top in one step, right? You set small milestones and focus on one section at a time. In the same way, set smaller savings goals, maybe $100 a month, then increase it to $200 as you get more comfortable. Step 2. Open a separate savings account. Now, here's a crucial tip. Open a separate savings account for your emergency fund. Keeping your emergency fund in the same account as your everyday spending money can tempt you to dip into it for non-essentials. A high-yield savings account is a great option because your money can grow a little while staying accessible when needed. Avoid keeping your emergency fund in cash at home or mixing it with your checking account. A separate account builds a psychological barrier, making it harder to spend that money. Step 3. Automate your savings. To make saving easier, automate it. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your emergency fund after each paycheck. Even small amounts like $50 or $100 per month can add up over time. The key is consistency. Think of it this way. When you automate your savings, it becomes a habit. You don't have to rely on willpower every month, it just happens. You can start with a small amount, like $20 a week, and gradually increase it as you see your fund grow. Step 4. Cut unnecessary expenses. To free up money for your emergency fund, review your budget and cut unnecessary expenses. Maybe it's eating out less, canceling unused subscriptions, or cutting back on impulse purchases. All the savings you generate here can be redirected straight into your emergency fund. For example, let's say you're spending $50 a month on a streaming service you rarely use. Canceling that and putting the money into your emergency fund could add up to $600 a year. Look at all your recurring expenses and ask yourself, do I really need this? Step 5. Increase your income. If you're serious about building your emergency fund quickly, consider boosting your income. Whether it's picking up a side hustle, freelancing, or selling items you no longer need, any extra cash can help. The faster you add to your emergency fund, the more secure you'll be. You don't have to make a big career change, just look for small opportunities. Maybe you could offer tutoring, drive for a rideshare service, or sell things online. Every bit counts. Common mistakes to avoid. Before we move forward, let's talk about common mistakes people make when building an emergency fund. First, don't oversave and neglect other financial goals. While building an emergency fund is crucial, make sure you're still paying off high-interest debt or investing for long-term goals. Balance is key. Second, avoid dipping into your emergency fund for non-emergencies. It's tempting to use it for vacations or shopping, but that defeats the purpose. Your emergency fund is strictly for unexpected, essential expenses. Quote. When to use your emergency fund. Now, let's talk about when to actually use your emergency fund. Remember, this money is only for true emergencies, things like unexpected medical bills, urgent home repairs, or losing your job. Avoid using it for things like vacations or new gadgets. And if you do use it, make it a priority to rebuild the fund as soon as possible. The rule is simple. If it's not necessary for your immediate survival, don't touch your emergency fund. Quote. Building an emergency fund isn't something you can do overnight, but it's one of the most important financial steps you can take. Start with small, consistent savings, and over time, you'll build a fund that gives you peace of mind in any emergency. Remember, saving for emergencies is about creating financial security. Your future self will thank you for starting today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more personal finance tips.